Let's make an 18th century infant bedgown. Hi everyone, my name is Caitlin. I'm a living historian who educates other living historians by teaching old-fashioned sewing skills and copying original garments. We've been working through a series of making infant wear for the 18th century, but we're going to start making some gowns today. We're going to use linen, and most of the references I have to infant bedgowns say printed linen, and printed linen is A, very expensive, and B, hard to find. So we're going to print our own. It's actually not the first time I've done this. I have printed fabric before, years and years ago. I printed a 1860s sheer dress for myself. It didn't turn out perfect. I made a stamp that was too big. I hadn't seen the dress in person, so I wasn't able to measure the motifs, so I had to like guesstimate online. I'm much better at guesstimating now than I was back then. So I made them too big, made them a little too far apart. So I've actually since sold that dress, but I still love that original gown. It's one of my favorite original dresses. So one day we're going to do it again on the channel. It was years before I had a channel. I think it's still on the blog though. I had a blog a long time ago, so it might still be there. But anyways, this is not the first time I've printed fabric, and I remember it being not so much fun because it's actually kind of annoying to do. But what I bought was a set of wooden fabric stamps from Amazon. So we're going to copy an original infant bedgown. This one's a little bit bigger. It looks like it has like a cord around the bust and the waist, and then also the neckline. So you can draw it up for an infant and then let it out for a toddler. So I found a stamp that's similar, pretty close, on Amazon. And then we're just going to be using some ink that I also got on Amazon. I got like 16 of them. It was a pretty good deal. Ink's expensive now. Like the whole stamping inks, like I don't remember them being this expensive, but I got them in a variety of colors. We're going to use brown because it's closer to the original that we're copying. And I kind of like the color, and brown's a good color for linen. So I'm going to be using stamp, ink, straight edge. This is going to be a lot of printing because it is a straight stripe down, and my stamp isn't very big. So it might take a little bit to stamp. And then to set the ink, we're going to use the iron, which is what I did last time. It worked out really well. But yeah, this is just plain white linen. My fabric's about 60 inches wide, and you want the whole fabric piece because the bedgown is just folded in half and is sewn up the sides. It's not very difficult to work on. So we're going to cut like a strip that's like 25 inches wide by the 60 inches long, and we're going to stamp all the way down it and then cut it out from there. But it'll be fun. I haven't done it in a while, so I'm looking forward to remembering why I didn't like doing this the first time. So this ought to be interesting. Let's go ahead and cut this down. I'm going to have to iron a whole section. Again, it's probably going to take a little bit, so let's go ahead and get started. Alright, let's go ahead and cut this. I'm using Sharon Bernstein's website, and she says you need a 60 by 24 inch strip of fabric. My fabric is 60 inches wide, so I'm going to do it the opposite direction that you would usually want to, but for an infant gown it shouldn't really matter too much. It says 24 inches. I'm going to cut it 25 to give myself a little bit of extra. I'm going to iron this very nicely before we go to printing. So this is what we're working on. It took me a good hot second to figure out how the stamp works to make it look continuous. But it is. I just need to, instead of starting right here, I need to start it with that first one matching. And that way it looks continuous like it does here. Alright, camera died, so I'm not entirely sure where it died. But, again, what I found is the more you do it, the better the ink gets into the stamp. And so what I really ought to be doing is having a scrap bit of fabric and do it like 5 or 6 times and then start my real fabric. But most of that's going to get cut off anyway, or it's going to be towards the back, so I've decided I don't really care. And yeah, it just keep going. I'm starting on the edge, hoping that by the time I get to the middle I'll have my technique down. So a lot of this is actually going to get cut off. It actually isn't as time consuming as I remember it being. Maybe because I'm not making a full 1860s dress, but instead making toddler clothes. You know, I remember this being a whole lot more painful and worse. Painful in the sense that like my back was hurting and it took forever. But this is not so bad. Again, it's probably because it's a toddler size outfit and not an adult size outfit. So far, 10 out of 10 would do this again. Which we will in like 2 months. Because I want to make another infant gown, not a bedgown, but a gown. And we're going to do basically the same thing. Alright, so I have my printed fabric here. I fold it into quarters, so fold one, once that way, and then once that way. I make it a little bit bigger in the body, that way I can do those, I guess, casings almost, and make it a little, maybe fit a toddler as well. So we're going to move it all the way up to here. Let's see how many, just under that. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5. This way we'll do, yep, 4.5. Okay. And then down here, so essentially I'm just going to go straight to that point. Round that out a little bit. Okay, so now this needs to kind of go up a little bit. I'm going to cut at least a little bit of the selvage off. Alright, so here's my front. Oh, I guess I need to cut out the neckline as well, don't I? That would be an important part here. Fold that back up. There we go. Alright, and the center, 2 inches on either side, looks like about 1 inch or so for the back. And I'll cut the front out just a little bit more. So this is my front. It looks like I just need to push this down just a little bit more. And then I'm going to fold it this way, because this will be my front right here. So there we are so far. It is quite wide. Perfect. We wanted it wide because, again, I want to make this fit a variety of children, even a toddler. I would just have to make it shorter for a toddler. So what we're going to do is just stitch up the sides here, stitch up the sides there, hem the sleeves, hem all the way around the hem and the neckline and everything, and that's basically it. I mean, it can be held together with pins, it can be held together with the sash, but that's essentially what it is. Hopefully I can hide, this is a bad part right here, kind of noticeable. I can hide that with the seam allowance, but the front of it actually looks really good. I did pretty good with the printing. I think I cut off the worst of it, or the worst of it's in the back, which for an infant at least won't be that big of a deal. So, alright, yeah, that worked out. I'm gonna go ahead and fold this up. We'll go ahead and get to work on the sewing. Alright, so you are getting footage of my adult bedgown because I lost my SD cards that had part of the footage for this project. It's only like 2 steps, so we're just gonna go with it. But I did end up doing a mantua maker seam like I did on Monday with the adult woman's gown. So this is just what that looks like. It's kind of like a French seam, but not. It's also not a run and fell seam. It's similar to both of those, but it's only done with 1 seam instead of 2, so it's a lot faster to work. Basically, you just fold in the edges of one side twice over the raw edges of the other side, and you just whip that down. I love mantua maker seams. They're like my favorite thing in the world. So that's how I did the size of the infant one as well. And so this is the sewing portion, like what that would have looked like. And again, it's the exact same thing. It's just In case you hadn't seen that video, I wanted to demonstrate what I did, but this is literally like the only step that I lost footage for, which is a good thing, but also that's why you don't have footage of it. But it looks exactly the same, so it's not that big of a deal. And then this is the actual gown that we are actually working on today. This is me hemming down the top of the neckband or the neck area. I couldn't get it large enough to admit a tape, which is what I needed it to. I needed it to fit an 1/8" tape, but because of that curve, it just wouldn't take it. So I did something a little unconventional. It's a period method, like you do see twill tape, like larger bits, being used to make a running, so to speak, or we would say a casing today. They would say mostly running, at least they would in the 19th century. I don't know about 18th century. But like a casing or a running to put the drawstring in. And so I just ended up doing a very narrow hem because I knew that's how it could work, like it would work this way. And I covered it with twill tape later to make that running. And then the hemming, so the whole thing gets hemmed all the way around. I just used a little hem stitch, which we would call a whip stitch today. And it's just, I made the bottom hem larger than on the sides. On the sides, I did basically the same size of a hem as I did on the neckline. But the bottom, because my stamping wasn't the most aesthetically pleasing, at the very bottom near that selvage, because the selvage was thicker, I just ended up doing a bigger hem to kind of hide that on the inside of the dress a little bit. And then I got to go ahead and put on the casing for the top part. So there's 3 casings in this dress. There's one at the top neck, there's one right under the armpit, so like bust-ish, and then one kind of at the waist. And they're all put in basically the same way. They're just kind of whipped on either end, and of course the middle is left free so that you can put the drawstring or the running, essentially, a little smaller bit of twill tape inside the other twill tape to make a drawstring. And this is doing the bottom edge. So again, it's the same thing, just on the bottom edge instead of the top edge this time. And I did use linen thread for this entire project, so it's a little bit of a thicker thread, but it's a little bit more period correct. And then this is measuring for the other casings. So again, one is right under the armpit, so like bust width, and that was pretty easy to measure. The other one I guesstimated. I think I ended up making it a little bit longer than it needs to be by about 1 inch-ish. I guess I could take that out and redo that, but I think it's fine the way it is. It's just not quite where I think it should be. But yeah, this is all just the measuring for those tapes. And of course, most infant bedgowns didn't have the tapes. This is one I just found, and I liked this style because, again, it could fit a variety of children, and you can also make it, fit with the drawstring. So I decided to add them. I don't know how common this style was, but I thought it was fun. It was something different than what you usually see. And since we already did bedgown on Monday for the adults, I wanted to show something that was different, hence adding the drawstrings. And these, again, get sewn in the exact same way, just whipped right in. I was trying to make my stitches as small as I possibly could because I didn't really want them to be seen from the outer side. They're fairly invisible on the original. You just kind of see the puckering a little bit, so I just want to make sure that they were pretty small size of stitches. And then I did the other one the same way, so the one that's a little bit further down. And then I got to add the tapes, or, you know, twill tape. So I just put a little bodkin. It may have actually been a large needle, I don't quite remember. And yeah, just put it all the way in there, all the way around, and that way you can draw up the gown in 3 places, which is a little bit weird, I think. Usually you see it at the waist and the neck, like that's normal for 19th century at least. But this one has 3, which I thought was interesting. Not entirely sure why, but just what the original did. You can clearly see that there are 3, clearly see there are 2 casings on the front of the dress, like one right around the armpit and one a few inches lower. So that's what I did on mine. I don't know why we had that middle one, but it is there on the original, so it's there on mine. And that concludes the sewing. That's basically everything. Again, these things are super simple to make. This one ended up being a little bit longer because, again, I did hand stamp that fabric, and I also, of course, added the drawstrings. So I added some time to this as well. Alright, I'm going to put it vertically, just because you can see the whole thing. So yeah, I don't have the fake baby doll with me. It's on display in a museum, so we're going to do this without that, but I feel like that's fine, probably. So I do like the stamping. We're going to do more stamping next month with another baby gown. That one's going to be more complicated construction, but it's going to not be stripes. It's going to be like a little floral thing. I do think this would have been a little bit better had the bits been filled in, which I guess I could go back and, I don't know, paint them in. But I kind of feel I like it this way anyway. My stamping isn't exactly the most even, which I feel like is fairly noticeable in the stripes. It's not as noticeable, I think, if it was just like a floral here and there in a pattern. But with the stripes, it's a little bit more noticeable. So I'm wondering if I ought to have started with the other one and then worked my way up to this one, because this is a little bit more of a complicated stamping process, I guess. But the construction of this one's much easier. So it's essentially, again, a bedgown. And the only difference is we have the ties in there. Now, I did make a slight difference, again, because of it wouldn't lay right, so I had to add the tape here too. But then I kind of guesstimated how far all the ties went to. I'm wondering this ought to have been a little bit further down. But I think for a baby, that would fit around the navel, I would think, maybe a little bit lower. But it'd be great for a toddler too. So I think we're going to get a lot of use out of this particular gown. We may have to make more undergarments for a larger child, but this particular gown, we're going to get a lot of use out of. But yeah, I feel like that's super cute. Maybe a little bit weird with the 3 drawstrings. We're not used to seeing that, but that's definitely what the original showed. I could definitely see a 3rd one. I don't know what the purpose of the middle one is. Like going right under the arm. You can see it in the original, but again, I don't really know the purpose. I do understand the waist one, I understand the neck one, I just don't understand that one so much. But we did what we were supposed to do. We copied the original. So we got another 18th century thing done. We're doing one more 18th century baby thing. I was kind of hoping it would be diapers. Still haven't got my hands on a diaper cloth. So it'll go, whenever I get my hands on some nice linen diaper cloth that is the right weight and is in my budget, I'll grab some and we'll just do a video on it on the side. So we'll fit it all in somewhere. I still have the wool to make the pilchers, and I'm waiting as patiently as I can. So we will see how that goes this year. But yeah, we only have one more project for this series, and then we're off to other things next year. If you've enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe to the channel, click that little bell notification so you're notified anytime I upload a new video. And as always, have a fantastic week, and I'll see you back here in the next video.